Joining me now to discuss BTC price and other Bitcoin news is our Week in Review panel, CoinDesk Managing Editor of Technology, Christie Harkin in Toronto, and Managing Editor of Markets, Brad Keoun in Austin. Happy Friday to you, Christie and Brad.
Hi there.
You too, Christine.
All right, taking a look at these markets, we're seeing a bounce, Brad. Jobs market have much of an impact, and we have to balance this with low volumes, so not to get too hasty on judgments.
For sure, Christine. I mean, waking up this morning, I don't think anybody really expected a big rally like this today. It's kind of a surprise. Some analysts are telling us that it appears in hindsight that this market was looking for a reason to rally. There's no logic behind kind of the move. If in the context of the jobs report, as you mentioned, it would seem that jobs report would tilt the Fed a little more hawkish, if anything. But, we had gone down a lot and the market had stabilized. And, the way this market works is things kind of, build up and then they move. All of a sudden we're trading sideways for a while, which is where we've been for the past couple of weeks. And all of a sudden we're having to move back up here again today, above $40,000. And so it's all of a sudden kind of changes the outlook a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And we're also seeing some coins leaving exchanges. That is a bullish sign. What's the new resistance support level your technical team is seeing?
Again, we have a big move like this, and all of a sudden the outlook changes pretty quickly. Before this, people were seeing $40,000 as the level of resistance that we would have to break through. Now we've kind of just jammed right through it. And now people are talking about 45,000, even 51,000. So, everybody knows Bitcoin is a very volatile asset. Just like we saw a big, swift sell-off on the downside, we often see these swift sell-ups on the upside.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's take a look at some of the market-moving headlines of the week. And taxes was a key theme, I would say. The IRS is allowing a tax refund for staked Tezos. So not clear that this is precedent-setting. Also, U.S. lawmakers are reintroducing a bill to provide tax relief for small crypto transactions. The legislation by a bipartisan group of House representatives would exempt realized crypto gains under $200. What do we know about this, Christie?
Well, this is kind of an interesting move. So what we're looking at is the Virtual Cryptocurrency Tax Fairness Act, an amendment to the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, in the state's tax code. And it was brought by Reps Suzanne Del Bene in Washington, and another in Arizona, Florida, Minnesota, as you say, bipartisan. And that would simplify tax burdens on daily crypto users who now, at the moment, have to report even the smallest capital gain. So right now, say you go and you try to pay for a cup of coffee with Bitcoin. And yes, you can do that using a variety of methods I'm not going to get into right now. But if you do, or if you buy some BTC swag on a website and pay with Bitcoin, each of those little purchases creates a taxable event. And you have to keep a record of how much you originally bought that little bit of Bitcoin for originally, and then report any change, either up or down, in that Bitcoin's value at the point that you spent it, which of course is a total pain. So this legislation would mean that next year on your taxes, if you live in the US, you wouldn't have to worry about any of those little rinky-dink transactions that you made this year under $200 in value, since it will apply retroactively to the beginning of 2022. And here's the thing. Jerry Brito, the executive director of Coin Center, has pointed out a major reason why this is a good thing for Bitcoin development. As he says, not only will this create a level playing field for digital currencies, but it will also help unleash innovation on applications like micropayments, so little bits of Bitcoin that you can tip people, which can consist of dozens of transactions per minute and thus are difficult to square with the current law. So if this passes, it'll make these microtransactions and just small payments a lot less of a headache to finagle at the end of the year when you go to report your taxes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting legislation coming out with respect to crypto, with respect to Bitcoin, really. In Arizona, this state senator, Wendy Rogers there, was introducing a bill that would make Bitcoin legal tender in the state. And she introduced a couple of bills this week as well that would exempt Bitcoin from property tax, allow state agencies to accept Bitcoin as a form of payment for taxes, fees, fines, etc. So a lot of interesting crypto-friendly bills being introduced. Don't know if they'll be passed. It's a whole other can of worms. Also, MicroStrategy posting a total Bitcoin impairment loss of $831 million for 2021 versus $71 million in 2020. That's according to their latest earnings statement. The impairment reflects the decline in the price of Bitcoin versus the price at which the Bitcoin was acquired. Nevertheless, MicroStrategy is still very firm in its Bitcoin accumulation strategy, buying an extra 660 Bitcoins for around 25 million throughout January. Brad, everyone is a maxi, from Fidelity to David Marcus, the former head of Facebook and Meta, now discontinued Libra DM project. But there's also some great criticisms from JP Morgan. What can you tell me about that?
Well, I just thought it was interesting, Bitcoin, again, it has gotten challenged by all of the other cryptocurrencies with Ethereum and all the other layer 1, layer 2 tokens that had just, meteoric exponential token price gains last year. And Bitcoin, it was okay last year, but it wasn't, didn't multiply in price. But here you have some really, thought leader type of institutions or people coming out and really making a case for Bitcoin. So you have David Marcus, his comment was, quote, "It's become clear to me that Bitcoin will be the one asset and layer 1 blockchain still around in 20 plus years." He was the leader of Facebook's Libra, subsequently named DM stablecoin project, which is now kind of winding down, and they're selling that to Silvergate Bank. But he's a big fan of Bitcoin. And Fidelity's comment was, "Bitcoin is the most secure, decentralized, sound digital money, and any improvement will necessarily face trade-offs." Again, they're really, really talking up Bitcoin. So, despite the sell-off and, challengers, it kind of biting at their heels, there's a lot of people who really believe that Bitcoin is kind of destined to stay the preeminent blockchain.
I was surprised by David Marcus's comments that he's coming out as this, Bitcoin advocate. But you also mentioned criticism from JP Morgan.
Right. JP Morgan, and, sometimes, honestly, Wall Street, they seem like they know everything, but they really don't. They're not the specialists in crypto. They are catching up in crypto. But there was a report today by CoinDesk's Ian Allison. He makes a really good point. At this point, central banks and treasuries have created a massive confidence void. It would be strange if some other alternative to fiat money didn't appear on the scene. That's kind of like big picture. Every crypto person kind of believes that. But he's just making some points that Bitcoin's not quite as decentralized as they would like to make it out to be, that there's a lot of concentration. He says 2% of Bitcoin holders own 72% of the value. I haven't checked those numbers, but that is quite a bit of concentration. Mm-hmm. It's just like, reminds us that a lot of the focus on Bitcoin market is focused on these whales, when they start moving, and it really moves the market. So
I wonder if he's including Satoshi's coins in that, though, which are unlikely to move.
Possible Satoshi
depends on
coins,
if they're talking about active addresses. I don't know.